Today, we are going to continue on with our teaching around stress. And today we've got Ryan with us. Ryan Corman, his real name is Arjan. He is from the Netherlands. And he became a Christian in 2004. In 2006, he finally did his DTS. And in 2008, he moved to Indonesia as a missionary for 5 years. After that, he served for another 7 years in Thailand, where he met his wife, who was born in Myanmar, but she was raised in Thailand. Now they've been back for almost 2 years serving in the Netherlands at the Heidelberg base, and he leads the member care department there and serves in the core team for the member care resource team for YWAM Europe. So the team that is hosting this seminar for you guys. So we are very excited to have him with us. Ryan's going to be teaching on cross-cultural stress today, as I think probably everyone here has experienced that. We're going to talk a bit about what is cross-cultural stress and try to understand some of it. But then we're actually going to work on later on the second part of today, coaching others through cross-cultural stress. So actually how to do that, how to help your teammates, how to help the people around you that may be experiencing cross-cultural stress. So some really great information, but some really great tools as well in the second half of this. So I'm very excited to have Ryan teach on this. If you guys have questions, you can definitely put them in the chat. There's going to be lots of processing time together. But if something else pops up, then just stick it in the chat and we will make sure that it gets answered. All right, I am just going to quickly pray and then we're going to start. Father, we thank you so much for this opportunity to be here together today via this amazing technology. I just want to lift up Ryan to you, ask that you would be with him as he shares his wisdom, his experience, and the knowledge that he's gained on this topic. So bless him and bless the Wi-Fi. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Shelby, and nice to see you all. Yesterday was also nice. I was already in a couple of groups. Wonderful. Just a little review of what Carrie shared. She shared something like stress is a normal part of life. And just to give you a visual of it, I brought this ball with you. So when you are under stress, you will see that it becomes a little bit bigger. Like, for example, today I'm very stressed because I'm teaching for so many people in Europe. But hopefully, when it's finished, I go to a normal state again. I relax a bit and I'm in a healthy state. And then maybe something comes again and I get more stress. The dangerous part, I would say 3 things. If it's too much stress, too fast, and too long. And sometimes our younger staff in YWAM, they have to do things for too long or too fast and too much. And then they stay in this state. And then, I from the member care team have to be the ambulance and come in and try to help. That's not what we want. We don't want to be the ambulance. We want to be the fence. We want to prevent instead of being that ambulance and to restore people that have been hurt along the way. So too much, too fast, for too long. Carrie spoke also in a school, and she said these things. She didn't say it yesterday, but I think it's very valuable. She said things like, burnout is completely avoidable. Think about that. Burnout is completely avoidable because the warning signs are everywhere. It's a whole road of warning signs. Your body gives warning signs. There's all these signals, wee, alarm, alarm, alarm. And it's not a road we have to take. So it's not a road we have to take. Now, I had my share as well on cross-cultural stress. I lived 5 years in Indonesia. I learned the language. I learned the culture. I was in a remote village where there was no foreigner at all. So I've been there. I know how it feels, and it's not easy. Also 7 years in Thailand, where I met my wife. And to share a little story, my wife is born in Myanmar, but raised in Thailand. So this was my cross-cultural stress with my wife. So hope this makes sense to you guys. We were dating And we were in a supermarket called the Macro in Thailand, and we were looking for some fruit. And we saw this wonderful fruit. It's called a mangosteen. And she said, "Hey, would you like to have some mangosteen?" And I love mangosteen. I'm not sure if you ever ate it, but it's one thing you really have to try. It's a wonderful fruit. So I said yes. So I said, okay, we picked the best mangosteens out of a whole pile of mangosteens, and I was picking the best for myself because I love these things. And then she said to me, okay, let's also pick for our friend, or it's actually her best friend, Mary. Let's pick some mangosteens as well. And then my Dutch mind went fully on, and I said, okay, you pick some mangosteens for Mary, and then I would go to the milk section, and we'll get some milk, and I will meet you at the cashier where we pay. So I went, and I come at the paying desk, and I see my wife, and the steam comes out of her ears. Her expression is angry at her, and I'm thinking, what is going on? And then she said these phrases, and I will never forget it. She says, "You are the most selfish man I ever met in my life." And I'm like, huh? What did I do? We paid and we sat in the car, and then there has to be a time that she needed to share. So I said, "Honey, please, I have no idea what you're talking about. Can you tell me why are you so upset?" Anybody of you, can you imagine why my wife was upset? Any guess?
Yeah, maybe she was considering her friend first.
Uh-huh. And what would be my pet? That's nice. What would be my thoughts on that moment? Yeah, I will explain it to you. My Dutch mind, I want to be effective. So I want to go in a supermarket. I want to get the things fast, and then I want to go out as fast as possible. But for my wife, her value is her friend. And then you pick the best mangosteens together. That's the key word. You do it together. You pick the best ones. And that's why she thought I was the most selfish man she ever met. But for me, my value is quick effectiveness. Let's get out of this supermarket. I have other things to do. So that was my first sort of experience with culture clash. And in my marriage, I'm now married for 7 years. We have this probably on a daily basis. So we are still learning and growing, and it's not easy. I want to share you a story of a lady. Her name is Yang Liu. And she moved from Beijing to Berlin. So from China to Germany. And she had a lot of cross-cultural experiences. And after 13 years, she was making illustrations on her experience. And she made a booklet. It's like 47 simple blue and red posters about the culture differences she experienced. It's called Taschen, and the title is East Meets West. So let's look at these pictures. I have 12 of them. Just look. Blue stands for the Western world, Europe, and then red would be Beijing, China. If you ever been to India, you would understand this. This is a daily struggle for me and my wife. So these are these 12 pictures that I thought it represents the stress levels. It represents that there is this this difference between cultures, and if you do not understand each other, it can be very, very stressful. I would like to go to a chart. It's a chart that sort of shares what happens when you enter into a new culture. So the first stage is the initial attitudes. When I went to Indonesia, I was open. I accepted it. I was ready to go. There was a lot of trust when I went, but it's not always the case. It can also be the opposite. Yesterday, I talked with a group of DTS students who would go to Albania, and they were a little bit afraid because it was an Islamic. They had a lot of Islamic culture as well. Or there's the Islam is, I think, 65% present in Albania, and there was a lot of fear. Like, oh my goodness, I go to a culture and they are Muslim. They were so afraid of the Muslims, very suspicious. And prejudice. Maybe they never really met a Muslim family, which, from my experience, is wonderful. I love to be with Muslims, but there can be some fear, some suspicion. Yeah, and then that first thing happens. You sort of realize, and it's like a shock effect. My goodness, there is a difference in culture. Yeah, and then there's this thing called it's inevitable. It just happens. The honeymoon phase is over, and then you have this inevitable reactions to cross-cultural encounters. And there are 4 things that I would like to highlight to you, and maybe you recognize them. We were going to talk about it as well, but these were my little examples of it. So the first one is frustration, and I remember I was just in Indonesia. And then I had a motorbike, and every time I would go out of my village, they would ask this question: "Mau kemana, Om? Where are you going?" And I'm like, okay, I have to stop my bike, and then I would explain. Then, yeah, I go to the city. I will meet this person, and then I will explain the whole thing where I was going. And I would drive one house further, and I would hear the same question: "Mau kemana, Om?" I would stop my bike again. And I would explain, I'm going to my office, I'm going to do all these things, because I was thinking that it was like a serious question. And it happens like 5 times, and then 7 times a week. I got so frustrated with it. Like, why are they asking me this question? Mau kemana? Where are you going? Very frustrating to be in a situation like that. Another thing is confusion. I drove without a helmet in Indonesia. And then I was held by the police, and I was wrong. I didn't wear my helmet, so I said I need to go to the office and probably do something about it. And then he said, yeah, maybe you can do that, but just pay me 50,000 rupiah. If you just give me 50,000, just you can go. And for me, that's corruption. In Holland, you would not do these things. And I did not know what to do, because the guy really said, just pay the stuff and then you move on. But in my heart, I was like, I don't want it. So there was a lot of confusion. Another one is tension. One of the tensions that I experience is when I asked my wife to be my wife. The tension there was that in Thailand you have to pay a bride price, and in Holland to pay for my wife is so weird. And there was so much tension, because in my heart I was like, no, I'm not going to pay for my wife, because I did not understand the culture. I did not understand the value of these things. A lot of tension there. Also the tension with my wife, because then I have to explain to her, I don't want to pay it. And then she's trying to explain it, but the Thai value, and a lot of tension. Now, and the last one is embarrassment. Learning a culture, you probably experienced that as well. My embarrassment was this. I was in a language school, and I asked my teacher, what do you do when somebody sneezes? Like, hachi, when they sneeze. So the guy said, my teacher said, diam aja. So I wrote down in my notebook, I wrote down, diam aja. So I was in this green bus, and I saw a guy with a big mustache. I saw him sneezing. So I took my booklet there, trying to be ready when the sneeze come. And then he went, hachi. So I took my booklet and say, diam aja, Pak. And the guy became very angry at me. And I didn't understand why. So later on, I went to my language school. And I said, this happened in the green bus. I was very polite. I said, diam aja. But the guy became very angry. And then the teacher explained to me that he said, diam aja, it means just be quiet. So when he taught me what I had to do is just be quiet. You don't say anything. But I used it to say to the guy with the mustache, just be quiet, sir. That's why there was a little bit of embarrassment. Now for the small groups, what is your experience in frustration, confusion, tension, or embarrassment? So go in groups of 3 and share some stories with one another. Okay. I'm just curious, is there anybody who has a nice embarrassing moment in another culture they want to share? Sometimes there's such good stories that it's, yeah, we want to hear. If you would be willing, do you have a good story of an example of an embarrassing moment?
The question is not about one, but which of all them are.
Choose one, Jorrit. You can share one.
Well, I'm Judith. I live in Albania. I'm from Norway. So when I first came to Albania, you don't know the culture at all. And in this culture, you're supposed to ask 3 times so that people can say yes. Well, in my culture, you ask once, and if you don't say yes, then, well, too bad, you don't get anything. So I know that it was so embarrassing because people would think that I was so stingy because I didn't want to give. I wanted to give, but they didn't say yes. So how could I know that they actually wanted? So I've learned to ask more.
Good, thank you. I would like to talk a little bit about issues. So everybody has them, but it seems that we're not very open about them. Sometimes we are not even aware of things. It is almost that if like a bird poops on my shoulder, and I'm not aware of the bird poop, sometimes I need somebody else to say, hey Ryan, you have bird poop on your shoulder, and then I can look and say, oh yeah, that's right, I have bird poop on my shoulder, and now I'm aware, and now I can take action. So without awareness, it's kind of hard to do something about it. And sometimes that's scary as well. It's almost like a ball. So if we have stress or we feel burdened by something, we don't want this ball to be there. So if this is the stressor, we try to push it under the water. Like, no, it cannot be there. Oh, I have to be the perfect missionary. Oh, I need to adjust. But actually, you're trying to hold these emotions and these feelings that you actually have. You try to push it under the water. And you can do that for a minute. You can do that for a day maybe. But in the end, you get tired. And you keep on pushing. And one day, bam, it explodes. And that can be very nasty. I had some explosions in my time in Indonesia, and it was ugly. If I was a little bit faster with sharing, that I allowed the ball to be there, I would be in a much better place, because then you have to sort of fix it because you explode. But no wonder, because it's stress. Yeah. One of these things, maybe you recognize, I have a couple of them. One stressor that not many people realize, but I'm aware now that this is a huge stressor, is visa. To get a visa, to have all the papers ready, then you go there, it's in a different language, then you always miss 1 or 2 important papers, they send you back, there is no copy machine, then you travel in a different city to try to make a copy of something, then you go back and they look at you like this, and there's a line in front of you with 1,000 people, and you have to be back, and you fly back the next day, and it doesn't work, and they don't understand you. Anybody? It's such a even now, it's almost traumatic. If I have to go to the immigration office or I have to go to the embassy, I already feel it like, oh no, oh no, and all the stress comes again because of that experience in India, that experience in Indonesia, the experience that I didn't get a visa and I was rejected. Is almost traumatic. Another stressor or an issue that I had is I lived in the house of my wife. My wife was 7 when she became a Christian, but her mom is a Buddhist. And we are living in the house of my mom-in-law. But there is a big painting with a famous monk, and they have the incense smoking, and there's necklaces and things like this. And when I became a Christian, I went to an evangelical church, and they are very afraid. Oh no, there's a golden statue or something like this. Oh, now we have to be aware. So there's a lot of tension. Do I talk with the mom? I'm living in her house. Do I say something about it? Issues with my wife, like, why do we live here? Shouldn't we say anything like that? The cleaner is meditating and praying in the house. Like, what do I do with this? So there are issues, and if you don't talk about it, you suppress it, and it can explode. I was 11 times in Australia, and I already lived in Asia for a long time, and I had no idea about the humor in Australia. So the humor is like, the more you bully, the more you hurt the person, the closer you are with this guy. And I didn't understand that at all. So yes, my coworker started to fire things to me that I completely freaked out. Like, oh, this guy must not like me, and why is he saying these bad things, these sarcastic jokes? And I was so confused by it. And then I realized, oh, actually, we are buddy. He's making fun of me. This is a good thing. I was not aware of humor. It's a big issue as well. For my wife, going to the Netherlands, the food, the Thai they love their food. They make it the way the Thai make it. You cannot add anything. You have to do it in a certain structure. So first the garlic and then the meat. If I change that structure, we have issues in the house. No, first the garlic and then the meat. To find food, my wife was crying in Australia. Like, I want to go home. I want to go home. I miss my Thai food, because she got spaghetti the whole week. She freaked out because it was horrible to eat spaghetti the whole time. That's an issue. Now, and the last was a conflict issue with a coworker, where I'm from a direct culture. So I'm very direct and say what it is. And he goes putar. They go around the bush and they don't go direct. So I knew that there was something there, but we couldn't speak about it. And he didn't confronted me with anything I did. And then you are in this, it's very frustrating, and how to deal with that. For the breakout, I would like you to think of as many issues that you can think of, maybe from experience, or maybe something you saw in others, or listen to other people's stories. And can you elicit together, how many issues can you sort of put on the table? I already found a few, but there's way more. And then see how many you can get. You will get 10 minutes to discover these issues. There we go. Wow. In the chat box, can you write some of your findings? Just write them down in the chat box, and write down what are some issues you saw when you moved to another place with a different culture. What were some issues you discovered? And just use the chat box. COVID documentation, police clearance, paying bribes, yes or no, to drink or not to drink, to lie or not to lie, correcting an older person or a leader. Wow, yeah. Differences in problem solving, right? Roles of men and women, different foods and times of eating, male, female, language, and not learning a local language, right? No clear instructions, sharing without asking, look in the eyes or not. Did I miss one? No clear instructions. Let me see. Bringing up.
Sharing or not sharing.
Okay, good. Sharing. Yeah.
Oh, sharing food.
All right. Yeah. Bringing up third culture kids. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So as you can see, you can keep on writing in the chat box, but there is a lot of there are a lot of differences and a lot of issues. It's almost shocking that if you realize it, you think, oh my goodness, no wonder that you are stressed. No wonder that something is happening with you. After the break, we will go to a time of how can you help somebody who is under a lot of stress. And we will use two tools, and then we will know what the tool is, but also how to use the tool, almost like a hammer. You can say, okay, this is a hammer, but it would be also nice that I show you, oh, this is how you use a hammer, and now you try to use this hammer. So I'm going to try to explain it and maybe model it, and then also for you, you're going to practice how to use these tools. The tools are simple. The first one is the question. The question. The question is a wonderful tool. And of course, you have open and closed questions. We will talk about it, but the question is a great tool. And the other tool is the ear, a wonderful tool. So these two tools we're gonna look at after the break. But for now, we will have a break for 10 minutes. So that means, yeah, we talked about the question and the ear, and then you might wonder, how can that be a great tool? I hope that I can explain it well in a little demonstration. So I'm not sure about you, but my mind looks sometimes very messy. It's quite full. There's so many things in it. I have to think of finances and providing here and doing groceries and all the stress, all these issues that you talked about. That can be your mind, that it's so full. And what sometimes happens is that, we add things to our busy mind, but it doesn't always help. And to demo that, I have a little video I made with my colleague Philip. And we have, I would say, a good way of doing things, and I have sort of a maybe not so good way to doing things. And I hope that the demo will demonstrate the power of the question and the power of the ear. So, Hannes?
Hey, Ryan. How are you doing today?
Well, actually, I'm a bit tired.
Really? Wow. You know, you're tired.
Yeah.
I think probably you should take a nap. You should totally take a nap.
Oh, wow.
You know, get some rest and feel better. And, you know, I'm thinking about it. Actually, yeah, you should also eat healthy, you know? I've noticed you might be eating too much food. It's not so healthy for you. So maybe have some more fruit.
Okay.
That would be great. You know, actually, hey, you know, I've noticed you're on your phone a lot. You might actually want to. I have this book here. It's about how to get off your phone more. So you know, you should totally look at that. Oh, you know, I also if you sport more, if you exercise more, that would really help your sleep as well. Actually, so here, here, hold that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh man, if you're creative, if you get like some creativity juices going, that can sometimes liven things up. Yeah, you should totally do more creativity. Yeah. Oh, and you know what? There's always, you know, Jesus can overcome everything. So if you study the word more, I think that'll help too. Yeah. I hope you feel better. Yeah. Hey, Ryan, how you doing?
Hi, Philip. Nah, I feel a bit tired.
Oh, really? I'm so sorry. Tell me some more.
Yeah, where to start? I think this corona thing really has an effect on me. I feel a little bit lonely. I feel that I have to do a lot of things by myself. My wife is in the house a lot. Cannot really make friends. Cannot learn the language yet. So that's difficult. The other thing is my mom is 86. She has colon cancer. I cannot give her a hug. I cannot be with her. It's so hard to visit her, and that's not easy. No, I think also my wife is learning Dutch. That gives a lot of stress for her. I'm stressed about it. Is she doing well? How can we become Dutch, or this whole process? I'm also in transition from Thailand it's hard. It's cold outside. I have to do everything on the bike. It's just not something I'm used to. For 12 years, I just walked with shorts and flip-flops. It's just so much easier. I miss Thai food. I think that my wife needs a friend, but it's difficult to find a friend. And then I have to protect my wife. I want to be there for her, but I do not know what to do. I'm also working, and she's at home. It's it's a lot on my plate, and I feel so much better.
I'm glad.
Thank you, Philip. Just like a shared problem is a half problem.
Yeah.
Thank you, Philip.
You're welcome.
Feel so much better. Thank you.
I'm not sure if you recognize that, but many people, they have great advice. There's nothing wrong with the advice. It's well meant. But if I have my mind already so full and people are adding all these advices that I need to do more, it doesn't help me. I need to unpack. I need to get it out of my system. And I think one of these things that really helps is to just verbalize, to give words to your feelings, to what you're feeling, that somebody's listening to you without any judgment, that you can just be there and share what's on your mind. You know, it might not be politically correct, it might not mean the most Christian wording, but just let it out. And that's that step, and I call it verbalize. To let somebody verbalize, it's really true. A shared problem becomes a half problem. That you can just share it, like, this is where I'm at, and these are the words that I have it, and I feel bad about it, or whatever that might be. Wow, I even feel it when I can just let it out. So verbalize is the first step. Another step is also very important, is to normalize. You have no idea. If I go over for example, the transition chart with somebody, and you explain, okay, you are involved, and then you are leaving, and with leaving you have losses, and then you are in the transition, and your emotions go up and down, and there's chaos in your mind. And then just to say one thing, my goodness, you have had a lot of change and a lot of losses in your mind. No wonder that you feel exhausted. That is pretty normal. Oh, finally somebody says, oh wow, I'm not crazy. I thought that I would go that I'm going bananas. I thought that I'm going cuckoo, cuckoo, but it's just normal. Just to have somebody say, hey, this is very normal where you're at. Ula shared from our from yesterday, where she was adding, and I want to say to Ula that you are stressed. I would just say, Ula, that's very normal. There's nothing wrong with you. You're learning 3 languages and meetings in in Romanian, very normal. And I hope that is a comforting word for you. You're just in transition, nothing wrong with you. And you also realize, okay, I have issues. Maybe I need to do something about it. Yeah, it's good to share and to verbalize. It's good that you know, yeah, that's normal. But it's also good to do something about it. We have to sometimes be proactive and do something with it. And with this process that we're gonna practice, it's going to look a little bit like this. I'm not sure if you ever traveled, but if you, after a long travel, your bag look like this. It's not ordered anymore. Maybe there's an old banana peel that is rotten, and there's a little smell of socks and stuff like that. And what you need to do is to unpack, and then to repack. Actually, that will be helpful. And then your life looks a little bit like this. Oh, that's a good feeling. I'm not sure if your structure is nice, but a suit is like this. Question was also a very good tool. And of course, you have closed questions and you have open questions. And I want to do a little game with you. And ask me a closed question. And a closed question means that there is only a yes and a no answer to that question. So I will show you the picture and just ask me closed question, and then we will see to find out what it is. So this is the picture. Ask me a closed question.
Is it food?
Yes.
Is it meat in it?
Yes.
Are all the pieces there?
Yes.
Is it a sandwich?
No.
Is it a hamburger?
Ah, there you go. It's a hamburger. Well done. Yeah. So it took about 4 till 5 questions to figure out that it's a hamburger. Maybe some of you, they saw it and immediately knew it, but you were maybe too shy to say it. But sometimes you need a couple of closed questions to figure out what it is. Yeah, there we go. So it is a burger. But now we're going to look at some open questions. The most famous examples are who, what, when,
Ryan,
where.
Could you repeat what you said about the closed questions, that you need them? You said sometimes you need closed questions.
Oh, yeah. Now, the biggest example of a wonderful, beautiful closed question was when I got married. Ryan, do you take this wife as you? Do you take a Pau as your wife? And I had to say yes. It's a closed question. And a closed question is also very helpful because you may have to make a decision. Like for example, the thing with is it a sandwich? You're like, yeah, is that a sandwich or not? But you have to make a decision. And so closed questions are not bad. Some people, they are so afraid of closed questions. No, don't be afraid of it. It confronts. Sometimes it's very good to have a closed question. For example, at a wedding. The open questions, where, why, and how, are opening people up to go wherever they want to go. Especially if you walk alongside somebody, you have to think it's their agenda. If I'm walking with somebody, it's not my agenda. It's not. I don't have any purpose. I'm there for them. It's their agenda. So with an open question, they have all the space to go wherever they want to go. Now let's see if you can guess this one, but only ask open questions. So how, why, where, when.
When would you use this?
You use it when the sun is out.
Where on your body would you put it?
You would put it at your feet.
Why?
Because it's nice and fresh. It's not. You get a lot of air between your toes.
Who will use this one?
You, Ita, in Indonesia, you will use this a lot.
Ah, I know.
Okay, what is it, Ita?
Flip-flop.
Ah, that's right. These are flip-flops. You could even ask me an open question, and it would be even the easiest one. You could have just said, Ryan, what is this? And I would say, oh, these are flip-flops. So an open question gives you more clarity of what's happening in people's life. Now, I'm going to give you an assignment, and in the chat, Hannes will put a file. But these questions in your group, I want you to go from closed to open. And just to prepare you a bit, this is not as easy as you think. And many times we still use these closed questions, but try to practice from closed to open. For example, do you have stress? How can you make that question open? Anybody a thought? How can you make that question? Do you have stress? How can you make it an open question?
What is the
Why
source
do you
of
have
stress you're feeling?
Say that again, Jim.
What is the source of the stress that you're feeling?
What is the source of the stress you're feeling? You have to be on page because it's kind of leading as well. If they already talked about stress, then it's a great open question. Anybody else? This question open?
What are you feeling right now?
Right, perfect. Yeah, perfect. Because leading, it directs people to maybe a place that they are not at. So if you say, oh, do you have stress? And the person is not stressful at all, but is frustrated, then they don't feel understood. So it's not good to guess or to point out, but make it open. Okay, in your groups, Practice. The chat will have the file. If you're done with it, try to bring in a closed question and try to make it open together in the group. Ashley, how was that for you to go from closed to open? What did you experience?
Yeah, I think it's good and just a way to be able to look at things a bit more deeply and have people open up a bit more. Yeah, but I think it's super important to have people feel heard. And even I've noticed the difference in myself. I notice when people ask open versus closed questions and how much more honored I feel when people ask open-ended questions. So I can be more honest.
Right. Can you explain why that is more honoring for you? Why does it feel more honoring for you with an open question?
I think because it gives me the chance to actually explain myself, as opposed to, for example, I just moved. If somebody says, "Oh, do you like it there?" Well, those are my only two options, yes or no. But if somebody says, "Oh, well, how is it going with settling into a new culture?" then I can actually explain more and feel heard a bit more.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you.
Thanks for asking.
How is it for you, Peter? From closed to open question. How was that, Peter?
Yeah, it was quite nice. It's good, and then kind of just frees you up to say what you think and what you want to say, and then from there you can go further, kind of thing.
Thank you. Yeah, for me, it's been a lifetime practicing open questions. I try it with every talk I have, but I make many mistakes still. So you just have to develop it. And I think in all, I think this is a cool thing that I saw on the internet. I watched this guy, his name is Guitaro 500. And what he's doing, he's asking people to sing with him, which is quite vulnerable. Hey, would you like to sing with me? And then everybody goes like, no, I cannot sing. I don't have a good voice. And then he says, no, I'm not looking for perfection. I'm looking for boldness. So also in this, when we're going to practice, I'm not looking for perfection and that you do everything perfect. I'm looking for boldness. Just try. Go out there, ask open questions, see what happens. This is, by the way, the guy, Guitaro 500. Look him up. It's very fun. And people start singing, and then he asks them, how do you feel? And people feel joy and feel great because they just sang. And although it was not perfect, but they stepped out in singing, which is an expression of joy. So I think it's very cool. Now, we're going to look at a little bit of coaching. And there's a difference. You have debriefing and counseling. That means that you go into the past. And then you have mentoring, and that means how are you doing right now? It's talking about the present. And coaching is always future focus. So when you talk about coaching, you always look to overcome an obstacle or to go towards a goal. It's always future focus. So when we are now coaching one another, we're trying to find solutions. We try to reach a goal. And that's what we're going to practice now. I want you to experience and hopefully maybe an issue that you're facing right now. The more real and the more vulnerable we can be with one another, it becomes real and it becomes relevant. And it's not a practice, but it's real. What do you do when somebody's crying? What do you do? Some people freak out when people cry. It's just an expression. It's just an emotion. And if you walk with somebody and somebody starts to cry, calm down. It's just coming out. It's actually a beautiful thing. Crying makes the heart soft. God is doing something. They just let it out. Don't be afraid of these emotions. Just let it happen. So share a cultural experience or challenge you had, and one person is coaching the other person just by listening, by asking open questions, and at the end of it, try to go for some options. What could you do? Not that they have to make a decision yet, but what are some options? Think out of the box and let them explore and then say, what else could you do? And what else could you do? You could ask that question 6, 7 times. What else could you do? And then they start, the creativity juices start to be there. If there's silence, don't be afraid. They are thinking. Don't fire another question. No, let the silence be there. Let them think. You just sit and wait, and they are thinking. It's actually a wonderful thing. Silence is gold, because that means that they are thinking and processing. If you then fire another question, you stop the process. So let the silence be there. It's not uncomfortable. It's actually wonderful. And then maybe at the end you can ask, what would you like to make an action point? Because you're working to action. That means what can you do and when will you do it? And you can be more closed with your question. What will you do and when will you do it? Give me a date or a time, and then you can be accountable and follow up. So in your triplets, find 1 or 2 that wants to share. The other can be an observer, and the other person is a listener and is asking questions. And hopefully you feel that verbalizing is healthy and wonderful. You feel that somebody says, hey, that's quite normal, or I had the same experience. It's normal that you feel like this. And maybe go to an action point to realize to do something about it. Good, thank you, guys. I hope that was a fruitful time. I hope that you just realize that your questions and a nice open question can be so powerful. And then just to listen without any judgment, you're already doing great. If you get that from this teaching, I would be so pleased. And then these 3 steps, let them verbalize. And then a little comment, it's normal. There's nothing wrong with you. That is so helpful. And then to realize, okay, maybe we have to do something about it. And then look with that person what that could be. So I hope you got something from this afternoon. And then I give it to Shelby.
Ryan, I have one question. Would you mind to send the notes by email? I couldn't write it down many points because it was the presentation.
Yeah.
Is it possible?
Yeah, I have my teaching notes. So
yeah,
because I think you now, because you heard it, you will figure out what it is, and then yeah, that will be good. Yeah.
Thank you, Ryan.
No worries. Is there anybody that has a question, or maybe I can ask a question for you guys? Like how was it for you to be listened to just share your story and your issues, and that somebody was there to listen to your story? How was that for you?
It's always nice to be listened to. It's a wonderful thing when, listen to.
Right. Yeah. Great. Hula said nice. Yeah. Anybody else?
Sometimes, to listen a little bit challenging, because the tendency we always like to give advice. But it's nice if someone can listen to us. It's really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also what I really learned, just to be good listener without give advice if not necessary.
Yeah, you're so right, Peter. It's so difficult to I would say bekdicht. It means in Dutch it means shut your mouth, because in my mind I listen and I analyze and I see advice and I want to say this, I want to read that, and then I just have to don't say anything, just let them talk. But very difficult because your mind goes everywhere. Yeah.
I would say it's validative. It validates that you can actually be there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How was it for the one who listened? How was that for you? Just to listen to somebody else's story or her story.
I guess for me, it's like it just taps into compassion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It taps into compassion. Okay. Can you explain a little bit more, Pat? What does it mean for you?
Well, if I listen to someone's story, I might, a bit like you, I might have ideas of what I want to fix the situation and rescue them.
Mhm.
But sometimes it's also just your heart becomes very compassionate for the person that's going through whatever difficulties, you know, or whatever experience they, you know, if it's a difficult circumstance. But then obviously, if it's a happy experience they've gone through, then it's the joy emotion that gets triggered inside me anyway.
Yeah, nice. Well said. Yeah, I think the listener and the one who shares, they are both blessed. So the one who listens, but also the one who shares, they are both blessed. And the thing of to rescue somebody, in counseling they call it the savior syndrome. We want to be the savior. We want to give the best advice and to save them from something they are in. But we are not the savior. So a good phrase to remember is, I did not break it, so I do not need to fix it. But I can bring them to Jesus. I can bring them to a place where it's safe to share without judgment, where they can just be themselves and share their stories. So I didn't break it, so I don't need to fix it. I'm not the savior. He is. Yeah. Other questions, or maybe I give that to Shelby. Like maybe you could elicit a little bit, or wherever you want to go. And if I know the answer, I will try.
Other questions?
Yeah, I'll ask a question. For me, one of the cross-cultural struggles that I'm facing lately is just with the Romanian government system, which I'm coming from an American perspective. And so this is just like night and day for me, as far as a government that is understandable and a process that is clear and consistent. And now in Romania, coming out of communism and just an entirely different culture, it's been seriously challenging for me to maneuver through the government systems, which are just very, very inconsistent. I mean, just really depending on which worker you get on what day and if they're having a good day. And so my question is just, okay, so I acknowledge the difference. I acknowledge the culture shock, and it's been drastic because it's in every area that you have to do official. I mean, everything from my visa to registering my car to bank accounts, you know, et cetera. And I'm facing this same kind of, it was a previous corrupt system that's trying to change, but it just hasn't quite come out of it yet. And so how do you recommend to be okay on the inside? Okay, that's the basis. Because I just feel myself becoming so angry because now it's been 4 years of just dealing with this. And I'm not angry towards a person. I love the Romanian people, but I'm really becoming angry towards the Romanian system. And I don't know how to resolve that anger per se, because it's not like I can have a conversation with a person and forgive them. You know, it's more with a system that I'm struggling with, and I'm having trouble getting past this emotion.
Yeah, it's a very good question, Jim. I feel you. I've been in these same things. Yeah, the frustration. I will show this little slide again. And the frustration, confusion, the tension that is there. But we didn't really look at the rest of the chart. It will be sent to you. I think it's already sent to you. But there's a couple of things in the chart as well. Then you have to have a choice to make. And what will you do? Do you do the good Christian way, or do you go for the flesh? I think I do both. And this is good to realize these coping strategies. And the first one is to listen, to observe, and to inquire, to get information. How does this government work, and why are they doing like that? And if there are some answers from people that explain, for example, corruption, or it's so frustrating for a Dutch or for an American to be in another country where it's so different. So to get some of information, to give it some place, that helps. But realistically, I'm there also. So I criticize, I rationalize, I withdrew. I have these same feelings, and that's a little bit with the ball. Just also allow it in a safe place to just share. I'm so frustrated. I'm so fed up, and it needs to be out. You need to verbalize it. You cannot just be sometimes polite. So maybe towards a Romanian would not be so nice to let it out. But it would be good to find a person who you trust, but who's not a Romanian, to let this frustration out. One thing that I did in Indonesia, because I was so frustrated with things in Indonesia, in my language school, all my presentations that I had to do to speak better Indonesian, all my presentations were about frustrations that I had. So they have this whole thing, basa-basi. That means that, like in Holland, we value truth. But in Indonesia, there's something called basa-basi. You can just say like a white lie. You can say something, but it doesn't really always mean it like that. So, for example, mau makan? Do you want to eat? But it doesn't mean necessarily that they want to share your plate with you. And yeah, things like that. I was frustrated with it. Same with immigration officers and the injustice, because that's actually sometimes what it is. It's injustice. And where do you go with your injustice? If you keep it in yourself, there's these two things that can happen. Or you bury it, and that means I am the problem, I need to solve this, or I need to be blamed. Or and that's called depression. Or it can be an explosion, and you need to pay, and you start pointing to other people. And what happens with injustice, if it's out there, it multiplies. That's how a war starts, or a break in the church. It starts with something like it's not right, and then it multiplies. We need to go to the cross with it, and many times we go to the cross with our sin, and He is our sin bearer, but He is also our frustration bearer, and He's also our pain bearer, and we need to go out. So I would recommend go to your car and go to God and shout it out that you're frustrated. God, I'm so angry. I'm so fed up with this country. He's not bothered by your complaint. He can handle it. So let it out. Say it to Him. And I think you would feel a little bit like that Excel. I'm not sure if I have it here. I think that will happen. You unpack with God. You just let it out and try it. Many times I'm in my car and I just let it out to God. I'm so relieved afterwards. So hope that helps a bit.
Brian, could you click on your PowerPoint so we can see the last outcomes?
Yeah. So the results, report and understanding. And if you stay only in the complaining part and criticizing, it doesn't help. So then, yeah, you get alienated. How do you call it? Alienated and isolated, and that's not a place where you want to be. So it's okay to share it, let the ball out, but don't stay there. So my leader here at Heidelberg, we did something on feedback and criticism, and he said something nice, because I also said, like, you need to let it out. And then he gave a good tip. He says, okay, but set a time limit. So also with your wife or with your husband, okay, let it out, but let it out for 10 minutes and then let's move on. Because if you don't, you keep on being and nagging, and you never get out of it. So let it out, but don't go there too long.
Jim, a very practical coping strategy could also be hiring a lawyer. If you have the finances, or somebody, maybe a law student or somebody who's local and who knows how to deal with the red tape stuff, and you pay him for the frustrations, and that could work. Like, I know that YWAM in Serbia, they wanted to open a cafe, and there were loads of legal issues. So for a while, they had a friend as a lawyer on retainer, kind of. They paid him monthly a certain amount, whether they needed him or not, but they used him quite a lot, and that saved them loads of frustration, because he did the running around and chasing the closed offices and stuff. And he got paid for it, so it wasn't frustrating for him. So maybe that could be an option, purely practical.
Good. Yeah, my last advice would be, don't give up. Don't give up, brother. Hang in there. and I tell you a little story of my own process. So my wife went to Holland, and we are in the process of to become Dutch. My wife studied Dutch and get the participation declaration. She did all these things. So now we want to go into this process. And then the Dutch government from the city hall looks at the birth certificate and say, we need a legalization stamp on the original document. And we didn't have that stamp. So then I go to the Foreign Affairs in Myanmar asking for that stamp, and they would say, we don't give that stamp. We only give the stamp on the translation. So I go back, the frustration is, the steam is out of my ears already. I go back to City Hall, said, they don't do it. Don't you get it? And then they go to the website. No, on the website it says from Myanmar, they need to stamp the original document. So I go to the embassy in Myanmar. This is in Belgium, so I have to drive 3 hours to try to get that stamp. And they say, sorry, the notary is the highest authority. We don't give that stamp from Foreign Affairs. And I'm there with this guy of the city hall, and I'm trying to scream it in his ear and say, can you not listen to me? They don't do it. Don't you get it? And he said, no, I don't get it because on the website, and it's like that. So sometimes I gave up. I was like, okay, I'm fed up. This doesn't work. I prayed to God. I asked people to pray. It didn't work. I let it down, and then I thought, okay, I cannot give up. So I called again, and the person said, you have to go to a higher authority. So with a little bit of courage, I didn't give up, and I sent an email again to multiple places. And then last Monday, I got the result that they said, we are so sorry that it was wrong on the website, and we were going to change it. So my apologies that it was like that. So sometimes we cannot give up, and we have to go to a higher authority to make it done. And now on the website it says, on Myanmar it says, you don't need to stamp on the legal document. So even for the people that come after me, it has been a blessing. So Jim, don't give up.
Thanks, Ryan. Great. Well, thank you again, Ryan, for your teaching, for your stories. Thank you, everybody, for your stories and for sharing, in the breakout rooms and, practicing the coaching bits and everything. It's so rich to hear from so many different people, so many different contexts, different personalities, different cultures, but oddly enough, we're all facing the same thing. So thank you guys so much for sharing your stories and your time with us today. So we are finished with our day 2. Yesterday, we talked about stress. What is stress? A lot of great information to help us understand stress. And today we looked a little bit more at specifically cross-cultural stress, how to help people, coach people through that. And tomorrow we're actually going to look at managing stress. And tomorrow's session is going to be fantastic, super full of great tools and information to help you and to help you help other people. So definitely don't miss out tomorrow. It is going to be absolutely fantastic with Carrie again. And we're going to get some really great things. Now we recognize that oftentimes when we start talking about these things, we are experiencing our own stresses. Like Carrie talked about yesterday, everybody has stress. It's a part of life. And many of us are experiencing cross-cultural stress or other stress. And we just want you guys to know that as a member care resource team for YWAM Europe, we are here for you. So if anybody would like to have some processing time, we are a team full of trained debriefers, of peer trauma debriefers. We've got some counselors, and we know a lot of people. So if anybody is, just feeling like, man, I really want to process some more stuff, or would like to talk to somebody about some of this stuff, please contact us at our member care resource team email, the email that you received all of the information up to this point. Just shoot us a message, or tomorrow in the chat, if you want to chat to somebody specifically, you can send them a message. So we just want you guys to know, this is our heart. This is what we want to do. We want to train. We want to bring information, but we also want everybody to know that we're here to help where we can. So please know that. I know you even see how Ryan shared his chart, and he only kind of shared part of it because we didn't have so much time to go through all of it. All the seminars that we do, we go a lot more in depth in our 3-month course, the Practical Member Care course, which is going to be running in March. Tomorrow we'll talk a little bit more about that. But if you're kind of feeling like, oh, there's more, there is more. And if you want to learn more about that, then there's going to be opportunity for that. So bless you guys. Thank you so much for your time. We very much look forward to seeing you again tomorrow, and have a great night.